Hey guys, it's M, and today we're going to talk about two games that came out around 10 years ago now, and he wonders why he has no subs. Anyways, for those who aren't aware, Naughty Bear is a game where you play as a bear, you'll never guess what his name is, that doesn't get invited to a birthday party, so he kills all the other bears. There's a few more extreme things that happen, like zombies, vampires, and an alien invasion, but those don't really matter. Naughty Bear 1 was basically a weaker Hitman, but with a unique enough look and style to be able to pull something like that off. The gameplay of the first Naughty Bear was pretty simple. You get a mission to kill somebody, then you'd either whack them to death, trap them, or find some other creative way to deal with them. It's not necessarily a complex game, to the point where pretty much every mission uses a variation of the same map. And once you get into playing the game, you'll find out that traps are very overpowered. All this makes the game sound pretty forgettable in the grand scheme of things, but its charm and brutality, I feel, are what mainly carried it. You can tell from playing it there was a lot of effort put into this game. From small details like the two birds Naughty has in his house, the cartoonish but simple and nice designs of the other houses that make you feel like you're in some kind of Care Bears-like show. Then there are aspects like the camera making you feel like a killer in a horror movie, as it follows closely behind you, replicating a lot of the camera work in those kind of things. Then it's just the dramatic angles when you start kill animations. And then they added a camera to show the perspectives of the other bears and what's going on. If they're planning something, hiding in something, fixing something. It was just so good to keep you in the loop when there's a ton of things going on. And then there's the fact that pretty much every weapon in the game has unique kill animations. There's good reason why this game still has a cult following. Something about this stupid little island with this stupid little bear who goes on a rampage because he got bullied just stayed in our minds. So after a while, we got a sequel. Naughty Bear 2, Panic in Paradise. Funny story, I got the golden edition of Naughty Bear, meaning it came with both the first game and this one. I played a lot of the second and not much of the first until recently, which prompted me into making this video. You see, Panic in Paradise took a lot of things in different directions. Some great, some not so great. The story is pretty much the same. Our favorite bear isn't invited on a trip and he goes crazy on everybody for it. You're not particularly coming to Naughty Bear games for the story, so that's fine. Then we load in and you see the first area of the game. And you may notice some things are very different just off of this alone. Panic in Paradise went for the more equals better approach. So instead of the little memorable island Naughty Bear 1 took place on, we get a few different locations on this journey. Which in theory, sounds great. It was meant to be a vacation, so very locale sounds like a great idea. That's until you notice none of these have any sort of charm put into them at all. You could tell me these maps and props were grabbed from the Unity store and I'd most likely believe you. Unlike the first game where the area was more designed off of a cozy Care Bear type feel, these are just generic island locations with nothing really stand out about them. There aren't any little details to notice about them like the birds in Naughty's hut or the Unibear statue he had outside of his house. It's just a few soulless spots. And we don't even get to see the old island in this game, which is pretty disappointing. Back to our first few seconds of gameplay, you might notice something else. The camera isn't directly behind Naughty anymore. This is because the camera's more zoomed out now and you have more free control over it. Granted, one of the problems with the first game is that the camera was way too stubborn and practically forced you towards the direction Naughty was facing. So from a certain standpoint, it makes sense that you would want to change this camera, but the sacrifice for it is you don't have that movie killer angle anymore. It's not a big complaint, but it's slightly upsetting. What is upsetting is the camera angles for when you do kills. You see, before, like I said in the first game, the camera would shift to more dramatic angles when you do kills. Now, it doesn't do that anymore unless you get object kills, which is a damn shame. If you played only the first game, you may be thinking, well, those don't particularly happen too much. Let's move on to the other point then. Kills in general in this game have been made stupidly easy. You see, before if you wanted to insta-kill a bear, you had to catch him while he was doing something or trap him. In this game, all you have to do is walk behind someone. While I said the first game was pretty easy if you got used to it, this change in particular made a lot of combat encounters trivial. It didn't matter if anyone saw you after you grabbed somebody because then you would just immediately kill them. Then the bushes you could hide in, unlike the first game where some enemies would still attack you, the second you step in bushes here you can just wait for them to turn around and kill them anyways. And some may say, well, there's a few enemies you can't grab. When 98% of the map is full of enemies that you can, it kinda trivializes that point. Let alone now you can stun lock enemies, which I'm not gonna fully get into. Little details like this make combat in this game a joke because there's no reason to really get involved with it. Then there's other things like disguises, which were technically in the first game, but now you can get them mid-mission. If you thought being able to insta-kill enemies by itself was bad, now you can just blend in and set a trap, which doesn't alert anyone, by the way, and then just kill your target. It makes it more like Hitman with the disguises in general, but it leads to a lot of encounters being really easy. Then there are other things I could get into, like the Mega Boo that stuns enemies and lets you grab and insta-kill them later in the game, or the egregious sin of them taking away unique weapon kills in place for giving them 3 or so per weapon, and then removing some of the better animations. for no reason, but I don't want to spend the entire runtime on how kills lost a lot of their energy, or how much easier this game is in comparison to the first. On to the next point, the AI. The first game's AI weren't exactly geniuses, but it felt like survivors running from a killer. If they saw you or got injured, they'd huddle together, hide, make orders, or start barricading buildings and staying inside as a group, making it very difficult for you to deal with them. In Panic in Paradise, well, barricading isn't a feature anymore, neither is bears making plans or hiding in general. They seem to only have 3 main modes: calm when they're walking around, angry when they'll attack you, and scared when you find them fidgeting and if they see you they'll run away. And that's pretty much it. It's such a downgrade because if you go back to the first game and you just run out and start attacking people, it's really not the best option, and it makes bears pretty annoying to deal with if you don't have a plan. Now, you've heard me just shit on this game for quite a while, and knowing the internet, you probably think I just hate it. I don't. It's one of the few games that has me really conflicted on how I feel about it, because pretty much everything else I haven't mentioned yet is great. Unlike before, instead of having preset outfits, the outfits now come in 3 individual pieces: head, shirt, and pants. Those of which you get from killing other bears, meaning that you can have your own style, and it gives you a great collection reward, along with the fact that a lot of bears that didn't have distinct outfits previously now do. The temples are really cool too. Somewhere in a level there will be a key with a timer on it if you pick it up. If you make it all the way to a door hidden in the level, you'll be able to run into usually a bear that comes with a unique outfit, a weapon you can't find anywhere else, or money, which is probably the worst reward, but we'll ignore that. Oh, and another great point is with the disguise mechanic that I mentioned earlier, if you're disguised as one group of bear and then a bear from a different group attacks you, you can start an entire map-wide war, which is amazing to watch happen, especially in the more packed maps of the game. Then there's the fact that the requirements for certain missions really make you think on how you want to accomplish them, mainly in the endgame. Things like getting a leader of a group killed by his own subjects or killing someone with a unique weapon. And then there's a whole bunch of little things I could go into that make this game pretty fun to play over a longer set of time. What Panic in Paradise sacrificed for this small and cozy feel let it cut loose when it came to scale, as there's a lot more to do in this game than there was in the first one. The question is, was that sacrifice really worth it? It gave up a lot of what made Naughty Bear, well, Naughty Bear. To answer the namesake of this video, I don't think either of the games are necessarily bad. They both have their quirks and are fun to get through, but I feel Panic in Paradise misplayed its hand, getting rid of a lot of the things that made the first game special in order to put more content into it. I feel it's the main reason people either don't know it had a sequel or don't look fondly back on it. Panic in Paradise is a fine game by itself, but it lacks the sort of care you could feel in the first game. If you put the 2 games next to each other and told me to pick up one, I'd pick up the first one without any hesitation, which is a damn shame for Panic in Paradise and Naughty Bear as a whole, as after the, for lack of a better word, underwhelming response the second game had, we haven't heard anything about this bear. Unless you count the DBD charm, which I personally don't. It's disappointing because I feel the series could do really well if they gave it a little bit more polish and care, but I think that's all I wanted to say. What do you guys think? As always, I'm glad to discuss with you guys in the comments, and I've been Em, and I am out.